How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in today's episode, I thought I'd try to say something about the great short story written by Tolstoy in 1886 called How Much Land Does a Man Need? Okay, so here's a quick summary if you haven't read it. So the story follows Pahom, a poor but content peasant. Now that changes when his sister-in-law brags about how much better city life is. Suddenly, Pahom becomes obsessed with owning land, convinced that it's the key to his happiness. He soon buys a small plot of land, and he does well, and he pays off debts, and he lives more comfortably. But it's not enough. He hears about better land elsewhere, so he moves and he starts making real money. But still, he's unsatisfied. Then he learns of the Bashkirs, a simple people in Central Asia with vast land. He travels there hoping to strike a deal with them. But instead, they make him a very strange offer. For 1,000 rubles, he can claim as much land as he can walk around in a single day, as long as he returns to the starting point by sunset. If he doesn't, he gets nothing. Now Pahom is thrilled. At daybreak, he sets off, covering a huge area. He keeps thinking just a little bit more, pushing himself farther and farther. But as the sun sets, he realizes he's gone too far. In a panic, he runs back. He reaches the starting point just in time, but then he collapses and dies. Tolstoy ends the story with a line that says it all. They buried him in a grave 6 feet long. In the end, that was all the land he really needed. Okay, so what are some of the main messages here? Well, I don't think it's that hard to see. So first of all, it's that we're never content with our lives, no matter how well off we might be. In other words, what Pahom represents is the incessantly acquisitive but dissatisfied everyman. In other words, for him, as for maybe so many of us, enough is just never enough. There's always more to consume. There's always something else out there. But here's the thing. Because monomaniacal consumption is without a terminus or final end, ultimately having it as your one and only goal is frantic and useless. It's a frantic and useless effort leading nowhere. It's a race with no finish line. Now that's one point I think Tolstoy is making. Now another closely related point is actually something that's hinted at in the story. So it's said of Pahom that his lands may have expanded, but his world has become more cramped. Now, that's pretty suggestive. What Tolstoy seems to be suggesting is that when you concentrate on owning so much stuff, when you become enslaved to acquiring more and holding on to what you have, you end up losing sight of the real purpose of living. As you expand outwardly, you shrink inwardly. Maybe another way of putting this is like this, that this incessant desire to expand and to acquire more and more material wealth often comes at the cost of ignoring the state and the direction of one's soul. Okay, well, there is one more quick thing I wanted to say. So it's also possible to read this story and its message in the context of our own ecological or environmental predicament. I mean, just like Pahom's strategy, I think it's fairly uncontroversial to say that we have as our economic system one that pursues its infinite expansion without any real concern for its effect on other human beings and the environment. In this way, our economic system is a lot like a virus whose only reason for existence is also to expand itself indefinitely, without any care for the host's body. Actually, you know what? Here I'm reminded of something the science fiction writer Ursula Le Guin has talked about. So the question she asks is this: why exactly is constant growth the answer to everything? Why don't we ever question it? As Le Guin points out, this is certainly not the case in nature. In nature, things grow, yeah, but there's an optimum size for things and a proper homeostatic balance that needs to be maintained. As Le Guin says, anything, if it grows too big, whether it's natural or even machine-made, will eventually, because of its weight and its friction, become inefficient and counterproductive. Again, everything has an optimum limit, beyond which more growth turns into a self-eating cancer. So when you think about it, there's something really, really irrational about this idea of infinite consumption as our economic model. I mean, what's irrational is that we keep going with this system based on infinite increasing desires or wants that we know that the earth can't sustain, while all the while ignoring an economy focused on genuine human needs that the planet, finite though it is, actually has ample resources to satisfy. Pahom ignored the simplicity of the Bashkirs with whom he did business. He failed to take stock of their harmony with nature and their desire to take only what they need and give away the rest. He thought that real wealth was measured in acres and dollars, not in harmony and limit. And it killed him. And so it will, eventually, us. 6 feet under, the only bit of earth that is truly and ultimately ours. Bye for now.